I'm Sarai.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio. Welcome back to Seamwork Radio, where we share practical ideas for building a creative process so you can sew with intention and joy. So summer is almost here, and if you're anything like me, you might be feeling that familiar tug between wanting to sew all the things and knowing that summer really has its own rhythm. So today, Haley and I are talking about how to plan your summer sewing season in a way that actually works, without the overwhelm, without the guilt, without a mile-long list of shoulds hanging over your head. We'll cover how to account for summer's unique challenges, choosing projects that match your energy, and setting goals that feel exciting instead of burdensome. Okay, Haley, we're going to start with our icebreaker for today. So tell me about a summer sewing project that completely surprised you, either because it turned out way better than expected, or maybe because it taught you something unexpected about yourself or about your sewing.
This actually came up for me last summer. My sojo was not at its peak, and I decided I wanted to do a little clean out of my sewing room, which was a good call.
Yeah.
And when I cleaned out my sewing room, I ended up with this pile of garments that I had intended to alter over the years that I just threw in my sewing room and was like, I'll get to that later.
I think we all have that.
Right? Everybody has that. And I just decided to start chipping away at some of the alterations needed. And most of it was just hemming something or repairing a pocket that was falling off, little things. And it ended up being such a perfect summertime project. I think in my head, I've always thought of mending as a very cozy, fall winter thing.
Yeah.
But it was the perfect thing that I could do in short bursts, which is typically how my sewing in the summertime goes.
Oh, that's really smart. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, it was very energizing too to see the pile dwindle down.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I might try that. I've been thinking about I have all of these things that I've wanted to do, little challenges for myself. I was looking through my trims the other day, and I have so many cool vintage trims, and we were sorting through trims here because we're moving our office, and thinking, oh, it'd be so cool to do a bunch of projects that go through some of my trims, use up some of these old trims I have. And I feel like doing a season of sewing that's just about fixing older stuff would be another really good one.
Yeah, it was great. I ended up sewing I think a couple other garments that summer too, but the majority of the sewing that I did was all mending, and it was very empowering. What about you? Tell me about a summer sewing project that's took you by surprise.
Well, the one that came to mind was last summer. I wanted to do fewer projects, so I only planned 4 projects for the whole summer, the whole 3 months. And that worked out really well. One of them was something I thought I would really love. It was a Carrie romper, a Seymour Carrie romper, which is kind of a loose-fitting, it's really cute, step-in romper that ties at the shoulders. And I made it in white linen. And I thought I would really love it because I really like to wear rompers in the summer because they're just I don't know, you can move around in them. It's like wearing a dress. It's a one-piece thing you don't have to think about, but it's short, so you can still move around, and it can be still pretty short, and you don't feel like you're exposing yourself. But a couple things surprised me, which is that, first of all, I shortened it a little bit because I show a lot of leg in the summer and keep cool.
Yes, yeah.
And that was not a good move because it's so loose fitting that it just ended up being way too exposing. Plus the pocket bags were hanging out, so I had to tack in the pocket bags so they didn't hang from the bottom. So that didn't go well. But then I think the bigger lesson was just it was so it was very breezy and nice and comfortable, but I realized that I don't love things that are that voluminous on me. I just feel kind of overwhelmed by them. So that actually taught me a really, I think, important lesson about my own style and what I enjoy wearing. And I just like a little bit of shape. It doesn't have to be, skin tight or anything, but just a little bit of shaping. Actually, that would be a good candidate for going back and fixing, like going back and maybe adding some shaping to it or something.
I feel like a little hem ruffle
Mm-hmm.
and a little belt
Yeah.
would be really cute.
Yeah. Something like that. But I do feel like I learned something from it. And it
Mhm.
wasn't a really time-consuming project. Um, and it didn't take up a lot of fabric. So there was that. But that was my big lesson last summer. Well, if you have an icebreaker question for us, you can leave it for us. You can give us your icebreaker for a future episode in a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We look at them there. You can also leave it in a comment on Spotify, or if you're a Steamwork member, you can leave it in the community and we'll answer it in a future episode. All right, let's talk about summer sewing. So I feel like every year around this time, I really get this surge of summer sewing inspiration. And I start, pinning breezy linen dresses and matching sets and really imagining myself in flowing skirts. And then June arrives, and suddenly I'm dealing with the reality of summer, which is that it's hot and I don't really want to be inside and I have trips planned and, the whole routine just kind of shifts. So I used to make these ambitious summer sewing lists and then feel really terrible when August rolled around and I'd barely touch them. And what I've learned is that summer sewing requires a different approach than the rest of the year. So it's not about necessarily lowering your expectations. It's about aligning them with reality. And the goal isn't to sew less necessarily, it's to sew with more intention so that what you do make feels satisfying. And I think this is actually one of the most important sewing skills we can develop, learning to plan in a way that energizes us rather than drains us. So, Haley, do you find that your sewing rhythm changes a lot in the summer?
Yeah, I think that in the summer, I definitely sew a little bit less, and I account for that. I find that I don't wanna sew during the daytime
Mm,
because I wanna be outside
yeah.
and doing things, and I get a lot more FOMO
Yeah.
in the summertime. So I tend to plan my sewing around that a little
Mhm.
bit more, knowing that I'm gonna be sewing in the evening times and what my time constraints that what that looks like.
Yeah.
What about you? What about your sewing rhythm?
Yeah, I'm the same. And also my sewing shed, um, it's in a shady spot, but it still gets very hot. So I
Mhm.
don't really want to spend a lot of time in there. If it's, especially during the day, during the heat of the day. So I'm kind of in the same boat. And I really enjoy outdoor activities, especially here in the Pacific Northwest. It's a beautiful time of year. And it's a time to go outside and go hiking and go camping. And I'd prefer to spend more time doing that. So,
Mhm.
um, sewing happens, but it's not as frequent as the
Yeah.
rest of the year.
What does your ideal summer sewing season look like? Like, if everything went perfectly, what would that feel like?
I think I think minimalist is what it would feel like. That I'm still doing things that, the indoor activities that I love, like sewing, maybe even a little bit of knitting, but just kind of taking it down a notch, I guess, so that I have time for all of the other things and not stressing about it either. I think
Yeah.
that's what's really important.
Yeah, I feel like the same for me, that for me, the ideal summer sewing season looks like having a flexible, minimalist plan that,
Mhm.
allows me the space to do all of the other things in my life while still I still like having some semblance of a plan so that when I do have that mood strike, when I do have the time to do it or I want to, then I'm not just, staring at the wall at my sewing table wondering what I should make next,
Yeah.
I don't wanna waste my time either.
Yeah.
Um, so having that, good balance between a plan and flexibility.
Mhm.
Do you tend to be more ambitious or more relaxed with your sewing plans?
I think I think it's gone back and forth, but nowadays I tend to be more relaxed about it. I
Mhm.
think the tension for me is that I really like summer dresses and summer clothing,
Same.
and I have a lot of that, right now. Like my wardrobe is full of summer things, which we only get to wear for a few months out of the year. So I really don't feel like I need more stuff. So it's become a lot more relaxed, and that's part of the reason why. What about you?
I feel the same in that I love that kind, I love like breezy dresses, but I actually don't have a ton in my wardrobe right now that I wear regularly. Um, but I also have like such limited time to make them that time of year that creates like a different kind of tension, right? There's a lot of desire, there's a need, but there's a shortage of time and maybe like a little shortage of motivation as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Um, so I tend to, my plans for this summer is to just make 3 or 4 things, but be super, super focused on that category of breezy, cute dresses
Yeah.
and hoping that that kind of, um, energizes me instead of you know, weighing myself down with all the shoulds
Yeah.
and practical stuff. I just wanna make cute dresses.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a huge win. Have you ever had a summer where your sewing plans just, like, completely fell off?
Yeah, I definitely have. I think less so now that I A, plan things out ahead of time, and B, try to keep it pretty minimalist. So
Mhm.
I'm not planning way more than I can possibly do. I think that really helps. But in the past, yes, definitely. I've either planned too much and I just tried to take on more than I could possibly do,
Mhm.
or I didn't plan anything at all and then I just didn't bother with, which is fine. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine too. But I think I found a healthy balance now. What about you?
I've had plenty of summers where the plans have just completely fallen off like, apart.
Yeah.
I think that I usually end up, like, sewing something by
Hmm.
the end of the summer. It's very rare that, like, time passes and I don't make anything at all, but, um, I think that there's lots of time. Sewing in the summer, I feel like I'm just more prone to my whims.
Yeah.
I just tend to get excited and sidetracked by different things, and then all of a sudden the whole season has passed and I haven't sewn like one thing in my plan.
Yeah.
Um, that definitely was the case last summer, which ended up not being such a bad thing. I made one dress that was part of my plan.
Mm,
I made a skirt that was not a part of the plan, and
mhm.
then I made a bunch of alterations. And at the end of the day, it was fine,
Yeah.
and I was not dissatisfied with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think putting too much pressure on yourself when it comes to, well, sewing at any time of year, but especially in the summer, it's counterproductive. Well, let's get into our tips, and talk about some things that you can do to kind of help you maintain that positive mindset while still doing the thing you love, doing your sewing. So the first one is to start by getting honest about your summer schedule. So before you make any sewing plans, actually look at your calendar for the next 3 months and see what's going on. When are you traveling? When do you have maybe visitors? I know here in the Pacific Northwest, we often have people coming to visit in the summer because it's the one time of year where it's pretty much guaranteed not to rain. Not
Yeah.
100% guaranteed, but pretty much guaranteed. So that's a time when we usually have a lot of visitors. And maybe there are weeks that are just going to be chaos in your life, and you can kind of factor that in. I like to literally mark the weeks where I know sewing won't happen I have like an analog planner. And I find that to be really helpful, not being pessimistic about it, but just being realistic with myself because it all comes back to setting those expectations for yourself so that you don't feel like you're not doing the thing that you promised yourself you would do. That's something that I can fall into if I get a little bit too ambitious. And once you actually see the time that you have available, planning just becomes so much easier. You might actually discover that you have more time than you thought, or you might realize that you really just need to scale back. But either way, you're working with reality. Do you do anything like that when you're planning, Haley? Do you consider your actual schedule before you plan out your projects?
I think I look at the big picture of my schedule when I'm committing to some ideas. And then on a week by week basis, I have a whiteboard calendar in my
Mhm.
kitchen, and all of the whole family schedule goes on there, but I also uh block out mommy creative time.
Yeah.
um which is a nice way to consider my schedule in like a macro view and then a micro view.
Mhm. Yeah.
um so that's kind of how I do it. Next, we want to think about our summer energy patterns. I don't know, summer energy is different from fall or winter energy. I don't know what it is. I think it's that way for at least most people. When it's 90 degrees outside, you might not have the patience to sew like a fully lined blazer with welt pockets, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Think about what kinds of projects feel good to work with when it's warm. Um, Personally, I think quick wins can be really great for this season, really simple silhouettes, and most importantly, projects with minimal pressing. I don't want to spend a bunch of time at the ironing board.
That's a good point.
So I find that summer is really great for knit projects because they're so fast and they require less precise pressing, which is a win. It's also a good time for simple woven projects. I think like the Desi skirt or a pair of Kirby shorts are real great like wardrobe workhorses. You'll get a ton of wear out of, and they are just nice and simple. I think the key is matching your projects to the energy that you'll actually have and not the energy that you wish you had.
Yeah. Or the time that you wish you had. I feel like that's a trap that I fall into a lot, is thinking like, well, I really want to do all of these things, and so I'm just going to pretend like I have enough time to do it all.
Totally. I often will, when I'm planning a project or weighing one project over another, I look at how many hours I think it's going to take me.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't like sit there with my calendar and do the math of how many hours per week, but sometimes this can just like make the decision making a little easier.
Yeah. I've been really thinking about this lately. I was listening to an interview with the writer Oliver Berkman recently, and he was talking about how like we keep thinking that there's some kind of like magic pill that's going to solve the problem of human limitation. And it's just not going to happen. You just have to grapple with the fact that you have limited time in your day, in your week, in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and that you're not going to be able to do all the things that you want to do, and that's okay.
How dare you say that to me, Sari?
I know that is my big conundrum in life generally, so it's something I have to remind myself over and over and over and over again. All right. Well, the next tip is to choose projects you're genuinely excited about. I know that sounds obvious, but I think we often put things on our sewing list out of, I don't know, some kind of obligation or, shoulding ourselves. Like, I really should make some basic t shirts, or I need to finally sew that blazer I've been planning, or whatever. And I don't think summer is a great time for should projects. I think, sometimes we have those because we want them in our wardrobes, or we have an actual genuine use for them, or maybe we want to make gifts for other people, whatever it is. But I would save those for some rainy October weekend when you want something to really dig into. Instead, in summer, ask yourself, what would make me genuinely excited to sit down at my machine? Because I think this is a time where you kind of need that extra motivation if you want to sew in the summer. I think for me, summer is, it has to feel a little bit fun and a little bit easy to sew, or I just am not going to do it. Um, by the way, what's on your must sew list for this summer, Haley?
Well, this summer at Seawork, we have some really great summer
We
dresses
do.
coming out. So I can't tell you the specifics of my summer sewing list, but rest assured I will be making lots of Seamwork things. And they really fit that cute and breezy dress bill.
Yeah.
What about you? What's on your must sew list?
I haven't decided yet, but I do want to do some kind of like pull on like boxer short type
Mm-hmm.
thing because it's so comfy, and I do tend to wear that a lot in the summer, just going around the garden or whatever. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking pink linen would be really
Cute.
cute. And even maybe making a matching set, like making a matching top of some kind. I think that would be really fun.
I love that. I'm always team pink for the summertime.
I love pink. It's one of my favorite colors.
I just sent an offer on a pink neck scarf with red roses on it, and I'm
Oh,
hoping it gets
pretty.
accepted. It's vintage. It's very cute. But your inspo is reminding me of that. All right. Well, our next tip is to build in some flexibility to your plan from the beginning. So rather than planning like a rigid list of 5 very specific projects, think in terms of categories or themes. This is definitely what I will be doing this summer. Maybe your summer theme is breezy layers or comfortable bottoms or vacation ready. The list goes on. This way, if your plans shift and your mood changes, you can swap one project for another without feeling like you've totally failed. I like to plan maybe 2 or 3 like anchor projects that I'm really committed to, and then have a few, if I have time projects, waiting in the wings.
Hmm.
Sometimes if I have time projects become the main projects, but it's still a great tool to
Yeah.
have as a plan. I think it's kind of like meal planning. You don't have to plan like every single dinner, but having like a general idea makes everything go like so much smoother.
Yeah, I like that idea. And I liked your idea of doing the repairs. It made me think that summer would also be a really good time to make holiday gifts,
Hmm.
get started on that. And then they're all ready when fall rolls around. That would be so nice.
I dream of being this ahead of schedule.
Because
Truly.
oftentimes they're small projects if you're making like
Yes.
accessories or little bags for people or
Hmm.
whatever. I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah. Or little home deck projects, I think are great that time of year
Hmm.
because I get really into like my little home projects in the summertime and doing
Yeah.
home improvements. So,
Yeah. Maybe I'll do that. The next tip, and this is one that I usually follow, which is creating a summer capsule wardrobe. So, one thing I really love about summer sewing is the opportunity to create like a little collection of pieces that work together. I think this works really well in the summer because, at least here where we live, summer is very different from the rest of the year. So, it really does feel like you're creating a wardrobe for an entirely different person, your
truly.
entirely different life. So instead of random projects, you could choose 3 to 5 pieces that could all be worn together. So maybe it's a tank top, a pair of shorts, and a light button up that also works as a cover up. This is kind of the approach that I'm planning to take. I was mentioning making the matching set. I really like that idea because then you can wear it together or you can wear it separately, and you have kind of a little. It's almost like a tiny little built-in wardrobe. And I think this approach is so satisfying because every piece you finish makes the others actually more useful. And it gives you kind of a framework for making decisions because you're thinking about, does this fabric work with what I'm already making? And questions like that. And this is actually what we do in Design Your Wardrobe, thinking about your projects as a cohesive collection rather than isolated makes. And it's something that has really helped me to create pieces that I actually wear. Um, and as you guys know, I'm trying to create a wardrobe that's 80% made by my own hands. And this process of creating these like little mini capsule wardrobes each season has really, really helped with that. And it's something I really enjoy too. It's fun. I like the planning aspect of it.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
I think Design Your Wardrobe does a good job of teaching you how to think like a designer.
Hmm.
Our next tip is to plan for summer specific wardrobe needs. So think about what you are actually doing this summer and the clothes that would support those activities. We actually do this in Design Your Wardrobe too.
Hmm.
We call it your context. So if you have trips planned where you need something really versatile or you need some packable pieces, or you could be spending a ton of time outdoors and need things that consider sun protection, or maybe you're going to be at the beach or the pool and you want cover ups. I find that it's really helpful to visualize the specific scenarios. Like, what do I want to wear to like the outdoor wedding or for the camping trip? And then to plan around that, like your real life context. And that ends up yielding things that you're actually going to wear.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful. I'm right now as we're recording this, I'm planning a trip. I'm going to be going to Paris, and I'm sewing kind of a little wardrobe for that trip. And I think one of the things that's really interesting about it is, um, creating with that specific context in mind has helped me to kind of hone my decisions, but it also makes the whole wardrobe more wearable for the rest of my life too, because
Mhm.
everything goes together. So I find that to be really, really helpful, like thinking about specific needs like that, because it ends up that you're designing it for this one context, but it actually ends up working in a lot of different scenarios for your
Mhm.
life.
Something that I did recently while I was thinking about my spring and summer sewing was I went back at in my camera roll from, like, the last 2 summers and looked at all of the things that I wore frequently,
Yeah.
and I found this to be really helpful, especially if you don't have, like, a big specific thing that you're planning for in a season, to just, like, remind yourself of where your garment repeats. How do you feel about them when you're looking at them, now 1 or 2 years down the line, and how do you remember feeling about them when you wore them?
Yeah.
And it really helped me to hone in on the things that I do and don't want in
Yeah.
my clothing.
Yeah. Next is to set a minimum viable summer goal. So here's something that's helped me. Decide on the one project that would make your summer sewing feel successful. So you don't have to think about 5 projects or a whole capsule, but just one thing. And if you make that one thing and nothing else, you can feel good about your summer sewing. And everything else is just kind of a bonus. So I find, I mean, this works not just for sewing, this works for everything in life. I do this on a daily basis too, writing down, these are the 1 to 3 things that if I get these things done, I'm going to feel good about my day. And I think you can apply this in a whole bunch of different scenarios. And it really just takes so much pressure off because you're not failing if you only make one great dress. You're succeeding because that was your goal. That was what you wanted to do, and that was what was important. Um, I think if you're the kind of person that really um, loves having a long to-do list like I do, and you tend in that direction, like taking on way too much, this whole idea is super, super helpful. So, like for example, your minimum viable goal could be just to sew like a linen wrap dress for the summer. And if you finish that, you're going to be happy. That kind of thing. For me, it's going to be those shorts, like some kind of shorts. I haven't decided exactly on the fabric, but some kind of like pull on short. I think that's like my main thing, and which is a very, very simple project. So I feel pretty, pretty confident I can do that. What about you? Do you have one like that, Haley?
Yeah, I have a dress planned. I have the fabric washed and I pressed it this weekend, and it's this cute brown cotton lawn with little like lilac colored flowers on it. It's really
Oh.
pretty. And I have the dress picked. It's our one of our June releases, and that's like very top of my to make list for the
Mm.
summertime. I'm very excited about it.
That sounds really nice too.
Yeah, I tried on one of the fit samples and I look great in it. I'm very excited. All right. And the next tip is to don't forget about your UFOs and your simple finishes. And this also can include your alterations as
Mhm.
well. Summer can actually be such a good time to revisit all of those unfinished projects, like that dress that just needs a hem or the pants. It's just like literally waiting for buttons. Finishing projects you've already started I think it can be incredibly satisfying. And it doesn't really require the mental energy of starting something from scratch. I also like to use summer for all those simple alterations and repairs, like I was talking about, like taking in a seam or fixing a hem, replacing a zipper. I think these are all really great, quick, satisfying wins. And all of those wins add up and make your existing wardrobe just work better and also more sustainably.
Yeah, I really like that idea, and it makes you feel accomplished too. Next is to create a summer sewing menu. So you can think about your summer sewing plans as a menu rather than a checklist. This is something I picked up from you, Haley, which I think is really, really helpful because a menu gives you options. And you can choose what sounds good in the moment. So I'll have my list of potential projects organized, maybe by complexity or by the time required. And I have quick projects for when I have an hour, and I have longer projects for more of a dedicated sewing day. And this way, I'm never stuck wondering what to work on. I just look at my menu and pick what fits my mood and my time. So the planning happens up front, and then I get to be flexible in the moment.
And last but not least, I think it's really important to give yourself permission to rest. I think that summer is a season of rest and being outside and just enjoying your life. And it's okay if you sew less in the summertime. It does not mean that you are less of a sewist. And sometimes stepping away for a bit makes you come back more excited and more inspired. And I think that sewing should really add to your life and not just be another item on your to-do list that totally stresses you out. So whatever your summer sewing plans end up being, I think hold them loosely and just enjoy the process. And if you spend more time swimming than sewing, then that's okay too.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. All right, well, let's recap what we talked about today. We had a lot of, I think, helpful tips. At least they've been helpful to me, and hopefully they'll help for you guys too. One is get honest about your summer schedule and mark the weeks where sewing realistically won't happen. Just start there. And then think about your summer sewing energy patterns and choose projects that match. Pick projects that you're genuinely excited about, so skip the should projects. Build flexibility into your plan from the very start. Consider creating a summer capsule of pieces that work together. And if you need help with that, Design Your Wardrobe is a great program to help you put that together. Plan around your actual summer activities and needs. And again, this is something we also cover in Design Your Wardrobe. Set a minimum viable goal, one project that would make the season feel successful. Use summer for finished UFOs and simple repairs. Create a sewing menu so you always have options, and give yourself permission to rest. These are all such important tips that apply to more than just sewing, I think. I think a lot of these you could apply to either any creative pursuit or even, your regular work and family life. I think my big takeaway is that summer sewing is really about making it easy on yourself. You don't really have to make things harder than they need to be. And I think if you plan with intention and flexibility, sewing really it stays joyful instead of becoming another obligation. And I think one thing I was thinking about as we finished up these tips was I've been thinking about my spring sewing, and I think oftentimes in the spring we're very excited about warm weather, and I do tend to make things that are more warm, that are for warmer weather than we actually get in spring.
Yeah.
So it made me think that spring might actually be a great time to sew for summer because you're excited about the sun, but it's not really there yet.
Yeah.
So you can do your summer sewing earlier, and then in the summer, you can maybe do some smaller projects or just chill.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a great strategy.
what about you? Do you have a takeaway from the episode?
I think that my takeaway is that we outlined lots of really great concepts for creating a flexible plan, be that the like minimum viable goal or creating a menu or like any one of those. And I think that choosing the one that feels most aligned with your energy for this season and also what your goals are is a great first step for creating a summer that's going to still feel really creative and fulfilling while not like weighing you down with all of the overhead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so easy to get sucked into the shoulds, even with things that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even especially with things that you enjoy. At least for me, I have a lot of FOMO in my life. I didn't really realize it until the last few years, but I really there's so much that I want to do
Mm-hmm.
in life, and I genuinely enjoy these things. It's not like obligations,
Mm-hmm.
but you turn it into obligations when there are so many of them that you're just trying to get through it so you can move on to the next thing.
Yep.
So slowing down is not easy. And hopefully one of these tactics, maybe not all of them, but maybe one of them will resonate with you.
Yeah, and removes that barrier of like decision fatigue. And if you can just choose something and do it, just choose one of them and do it.
Yeah. Action is the only way to get through it, unfortunately.
I know.
Well, if you want some help putting these ideas into action, I'd love to invite you to download our free wardrobe planning kit. We talked about planning quite a bit in today's episode, and I think this will help you. It has everything you need to create a customized plan for your summer sewing, or any season, really. So it includes our free wardrobe planner, which walks you through the process of designing a collection of projects, plus essential tips to help you sew a wardrobe that you actually want to wear. So it's the perfect starting point if you're feeling inspired by today's episode and you want to get your summer plans on paper. So you can download it for free at seamwork.com/go/planner, and we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And if you want even more structure and support, Design Your Wardrobe Summer is open for registration right now, but signups do close soon. So Design Your Wardrobe takes you through our complete process for planning a seasonal collection, and you can do it alongside thousands of other sewists in our community. So head over to seamwork.com/go/DYW to learn more and sign up before registration closes. I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun to do together. And like Haley was saying earlier, it really helps you to think more like a designer as you approach your sewing. And if you liked this episode, please leave us a review. We would love to read your review either on Apple Podcasts, or you can leave a comment for us on Spotify. We love hearing from you guys. You can also follow us on YouTube at Seamwork Video. You can follow us on Instagram at Seamwork. And if you'd like to become part of the Seamwork community, head over to seamwork.com to learn how to join. And you could join us for Design Your Wardrobe while you're at it. That's it for us this week. I'm Sarai.
And I'm Haley.
And this is Seamwork Radio.